And here we go. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday and a happy Thanksgiving Eve to everybody, or at least everybody who celebrates Thanksgiving, probably here in the United States. So, yes, welcome once again to my kitchen here on this Wednesday evening as we get to do our weekly cast iron show here, along with many other YouTube channels, which is why, of course, we call this Cast Iron Wednesday. And well, I guess we will be able to start out here by showing off some cast iron because I've got two pies to make tonight in preparation for Thanksgiving. And one of the first of these pies is going to be a pumpkin pie, and it is going to be made in the Lodge cast iron pie plate. This is a pie plate that they produced, about what was it now? About 4 years ago, I think. They finally produced a bakeware line, and for the first time, they've got a pie plate that's actually made of cast iron. Of course, what this essentially is just a skillet in the shape of a pie plate. Because on the other hand, Lodge has also been producing cast iron skillets for decades, along with just every other cast iron cookware manufacturer. And the second pie is going to be cooked, in fact, in this vintage number six size 3-notch Lodge here. So, because yes, I mean, among the many things you can use a cast iron skillet for, this is in fact the world's greatest pie plate. And hello, love the spider tie dye. Oh yes, thank you very much. Anyway, thank you very much to everybody who's been kind enough to show up here tonight. Here, as I said, on this night before Thanksgiving, we've got T Shinotu 145. Hello, and yes, you will hopefully see some pies tonight. And hello to Jimmy Langford as well. I just cooked a bone-in ribeye steak in my number 10 3-notch Lodge skillet. Nice. As you can see, you can use cast iron for anything here. So, and hello, Randy Duffy and JIR Finishes, Val's Black Cats Rule, and George Lewis and Granny Graham, and so many others. And Granny Graham is rolling dough for rolls tomorrow. Nice. Oh, yeah, this is, yeah, I mean, after all, for many of us, this is the biggest cooking day of the year. But hey, I mean, we really don't have to do all this. We do all this. I mean, if you're doing all this for Thanksgiving because you feel you have to, you're doing it wrong. I mean, what we really should do is celebrate Thanksgiving because it's fun, because we want to, and because we want to put all this effort into making all this great food here. So, I mean, yeah, in fact, I should start doing this while I'm talking. Yes, actually, Lodge only started producing these pie plates again about 4 years ago. Although other makers have been making cast iron pie plates longer than that. I mean, there's a famous pie plate from Camp Chef, for instance, that is essentially the same thing. But what was I saying? Yeah, that's right. Okay, time to get out the Crisco and start greasing. Let's make everybody air sick here once again as we get a better view of the cast iron and my mouse too. Okay, yeah, that's right. First, let's grease us up a pie plate, shall we? What was I saying? Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, really, the whole Thanksgiving thing should be because we want to do this. I mean, I know it's like, of course, we are bombarded with our entire culture saturate, at least here in the United States, it saturates us that we're supposed to have this big Thanksgiving feast, which means, of course, breaking our backs and bankrupting our bank accounts and everything like that, all preparing for it. And if that's and if you feel like you have to do it, then as I said, you might as well do what I did for several years before I actually learned how to cook. And that was, for Thanksgiving, as I said, back in those days before 2010, we actually ordered Chinese on Thanksgiving. I mean, yeah, we didn't go with the turkey. We did all of the usual Chinese stuff, your usual poo poo platter stuff, and we gorged ourselves on that because why not? I mean, after all, the point was we wanted to eat and we wanted to have fun. And so for us at that time, that was fun. And if you if you want to do that for Thanksgiving, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Of course, on the other hand, I mean, as I said, for most of us, cooking is, well, quite frankly, a lot of fun and an expression of love for our hobbies, for our families, for ourselves, and other fun things like that. So, in that case, as I said, I am putting all this effort here into preparing preparing a feast tomorrow, or at least I hope will be a feast, largely because I want to. I've got guests coming over for dinner tomorrow, and I'm very happy to be able to cook for them. And by the way, while I'm at it here, this is a trick I learned from Alton Brown to use not one, but two sheets of wax paper because that really helps to keep the pie dough from sticking. And I used a very basic butter crust for this pie here. Again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with using store-bought pie crusts. But this is my very first time, in fact, using a very simple butter crust. This thing only has three, actually four ingredients in it. I literally just simply mix together flour and a whole stick of butter. And for the liquid, while there is about a tablespoon of water in there as well, I also put in like maybe about a quarter cup or so of booze to help to help put some liquid into the pie. That was another trick I learned several years ago when making pie crust. Namely, yeah, as you know, water in your pie crust produces gluten, which is what you want, but if you have too much of it, you end up with a rock hard pie crust. And that's one of the big reasons why no one seems to eat the pie crust. You know, you make all this effort on a pie, everybody eats the filling and just puts the pie crust aside. Well, that's one reason why. Well, no, two reasons. As I said, I used alcohol instead on this pie crust because, well, number one, it adds flavor to the crust, and people should be more willing to eat the crust. And number two is the science, namely that alcohol does not produce gluten when it reacts, when you mix it in with flour. As I said, I added about a quarter cup or so, or was it maybe about half a cup? Anyway, I just added enough until I felt it was the right consistency. Oh, by the way, the alcohol I used was brandy for the record, Christian Brothers. Um, I felt it was reaching the right consistency, although it was not really coming together. And so I just put in about a tablespoon or so of water, and that was all that was needed to really bring this pie dough together. So, oh yeah, the other thing, the rolling pin. This is a French style rolling pin, and in fact, it was only about, was it this year or maybe it was about a year ago. Either way, I used this rolling pin here on the live video for the first time, and I loved it. I really loved the feel of this kind of a rolling pin here. I had had a standard marble rolling pin, you know, the kind. I'd inherited it from my mom, in fact. But um, I think I ended up giving that rolling pin away or otherwise discarded it or lost it when I was moving here. I forget which. But nonetheless, because of that, I decided to try a French style rolling pin. And as I said, I fell in love with this thing the first time I used it. So, as much as I know it was nice having a rolling pin I'd inherited from mom, I honestly feel this thing is better. And I would very much suggest you folks give this a try, whether or not it's just simply using something like a broomstick or a round piece of wood or something. This one is very slightly concave or curved, and I think it does a great job here rolling out the pie. I feel like I have a lot of control of this thing. Oh, still kind of a tough pie, but then again, it might pie crust, but that might be ugh, because I'm not putting enough effort into it, and because it was chilling in the fridge since I made this dough last night. So this is not a fresh dough, but my understanding is you can chill the dough in the fridge for up to 2 days safely. So this has only been in the fridge since last night, so I should be able to do all right. Anyway, I also realized after I had made these two balls of dough here, that I probably don't even need the second ball of dough because I'm used to making apple pies where you need two balls of dough, one for the one for the underside and one for the upper crust. And a pumpkin pie, well, you don't have an upper crust. So yeah, well, that's all right. I'm sure I can find a use for a nice ball of pie dough here, especially on Thanksgiving. And we are getting, okay, put a little more elbow grease into it, but I think we're starting to get somewhere. Anyway, as I said, this is because of Alton Brown's trick here of using two sheets of wax paper. And I know Alton Brown didn't invent this trick, he got it from somewhere, but it works. Okay, now we are definitely getting close to the point of what we want. Anyway, the pumpkin pie recipe as well. I'm actually taking a chance and trying a new. Oops, oh, this is nice. Trying a new pie dough recipe. Okay, I think this one's done. Trying a new pie dough recipe on Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm sure that's a real smart thing to do, isn't it? But when I saw that video on tasting history a couple of weeks ago on a pumpkin pie from 1796, I was sold on it. Did this actually come off on the pie? I think it might have. The wax paper seems to have come off. Oh dear. Always something, isn't it? There we go. I think that's the first time that's happened to me. I wonder if it's because of this recipe here. Let me just carefully pick away at this because, yeah, I do believe the wax paper will probably be invisible though in the pie. So I don't think there will be, I think I've gotten rid of just about all of it. That shouldn't be a problem now. Anyway, so I've been yapping and yapping here. My bad. Let me go for the comments here. Are people buffering? Is anybody else having problems here with the feed? Recipe also uses molasses instead of sugar. Yes, that's exactly right. Because processed sugar only came around in when, like the 1800s, I think. So yes, in the 1700s, molasses was a very common and very popular sweetener. Fortunately, as a New Englander, or former New Englander, if you prefer, I do have a supply of molasses on hand, although I was shocked to realize I'm actually a little low. However, there is enough because the recipe calls for about half a cup of molasses, which is pretty much what I have. I don't have any other recipes that will be calling for molasses tomorrow, so we are good. And I think we're just about good with this pie dough, too. All right. Um, oh, yeah, it's my crummy connection. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Rocket. Molasses is just brown sugar without the sugar in it. Well, yeah, you could definitely say that. Molasses, of course, is also the base for rum. And yeah, there's some dark history involved with molasses and rum. Something that I won't get into at this time, even though there are unfortunately a lot of people these days who are putting a whole lot of politics into Thanksgiving. And I'm simply not interested in it because, I mean, while I understand Columbus Day, there's almost nothing to Columbus Day but the politics. I do feel that the whole idea of Thanksgiving is a good one. You get together with your family and friends, and just that, have a nice day of relaxing and being thankful for, well, how things are going. I think we are ready here. Yeah, I think we're ready. Okay, good. So, thank you to everybody for waiting this long. I'm also supposed to pre-bake this in the oven, but that certainly won't take very long. So, the real fun part, of course, is getting this into the pie plate. Try that again. There we go. I think we got it. There we go. Try not to tear off any more pieces of this wax paper. All right. One little piece here. Come on, you know what? Oh, there we go. And this is brand name wax paper too. So, oops, sorry about that. There we go. Okay, that's not bad. And of course, we just need to transplant some pieces of this from one side to the other. Because with pie dough, you can do that. Yeah, one of the many things that I am not very good at is crimping a pie. Most of my pies have what they call a rustic look, which basically means you've got a ragged edge on the top. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, of course. You can still eat it. So, let me just, whoops, kind of overdid it there. A little bit of here, a little bit more here. There we go. Push this out a little bit. Bring this out carefully. There. Haha. I can probably use a little bit on the bottom. All right. There we go. And that's what I mean by a rustic pie. I mean, I know this large pie plate does come with dimples around the edge so that it's easier to crimp. On the other hand, if I understand right, since I've got to pre-bake this crust, it's actually going to shrink a little bit. So let me put a little bit more up here. There we go. That should, I hope, be enough, which means into the oven, but this will only be in the oven for what? Maybe about 10 minutes, I guess. As they say, easy as pie. Okay. Pop this in the oven quickly. And I hope I don't forget it. You know, I tend to do things like that. All right, but meanwhile, now that we've done that, time to get on with part two, the pie filling. And for that, I'm hoping this bowl isn't too big. Okay, now we get to pull out the recipe. Your dimples look like mine. I never got the pretty crusts. Oh no, no, there's nothing mean about that. That's just simply I have yet to produce one of those artistic pies. On the other hand, I like to think my pies are tasty, and nobody's ever complained about that. And okay, here, regrettably, I have to say, I'm sorry to say, they were out of pie pumpkins when I went looking for one. So, yeah, I'm kind of miffed about that. That means I am going to have to actually use canned pumpkin. Yeah. Yes, and I did get some advice that, yes, it is true that you can use squash instead of pumpkin, like butternut squash, for instance, and it will turn out just fine. Unfortunately, the damage was done. So which means I will have to live with canned pumpkin. Well, that's all right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with canned pumpkin, just like any other store-bought ingredient. Okay, means though I do need to open this up carefully with a fork. All right, now that we've done that, okay, this recipe itself is really easy. We have 1 quart of whole milk. Don't want to splash too much. To this, we mix in 2 cups of pumpkin puree. You know, yeah, thanks to shrinkflation or the grocery shrink ray, these things are no longer fully 2 cups. So that's another reason why I should have avoided this. But as I said, there's really not much choice now. So we will deal with it. Okay. Add the rest of this in. Come on, yeah, you know what. You scrape out the rest of the can. There we go. I think that's about all of it. And to this, it's only a matter of adding our spices, including the molasses. And lo and behold, I forgot something else. I forgot olive oil, because there is one very important trick for pouring molasses. I've done this before. I was taught this by my mom. We use um, half a cup of molasses. So let's dig out my half cup here. 3/4. Here it is. And if you ever need to pour molasses, remember, always use it. Always grease your cup with a couple of drops of olive oil. That is the secret to pouring molasses. In fact, I might even need to use a little bit more. There we go. So I can go all around the edges here. And having done that, now here comes Grandma's molasses. And it's not just that the molasses from this brand tastes good. I think this is about the only brand that uses a wide mouth jar. So it makes it much, much easier to pour the molasses. Come on. Like molasses in January, except that it's only November. But yeah, it looks like I have just enough. The video said that if you want to sweeten it a little more, you can actually also put in about half a cup of brown sugar. Although he felt that wasn't necessary, and I am interested in a pumpkin pie with a nice spicy taste to it. And with that, let's see how well the olive oil works. Not bad. I've actually done better, although it's not quite done yet. And as you can see, we are just about at the point where I barely have to scrape any of this out of the cup. And there is your kitchen hack for the night, folks. As I said, grease your cup with olive oil before pouring molasses. Yeah, see, we've got just about all of it, in fact. I wanted to be just a little bit more patient. I'm betting I could get all of this in without having to scrape it. Okay. Anyway, while I'm doing that, what else do we have here? Here in the kitchen. Okay. I make pumpkin spice liquor for cocktails tomorrow. Nice, great in coffee too, as I've tried this morning. So, in other words, Patsy, someone may not be entirely sober on this video. I have to say, I am sober right now, and I intend to be sober pretty much all through tomorrow. But yeah, look at that. I didn't even have to scrape it, and look at how much, look at how clean this cup is. So not bad at all for that olive oil trick. My mom, when my mom was with me, she once tried the same trick with honey, and it did not work as well. All right, now that we've done that, let's see here. Tum, 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 tum. And to this, all we have to do now is a couple of spices. All he uses for spices here is allspice and ground ginger. I had to grind up some allspice berries. I found I don't have ground allspice on me. So this is definitely going to be fresh allspice. And then to this, says here 2 teaspoons of ginger. I bought a fair amount of my spices at an Indian, India, the country, spice store, which is why they come in huge amounts. Yeah, if you really want to buy in bulk, go to a foreign market, folks. That way you don't have to pay like through the nose. That's one, and two, through the nose for that over expensive organic stuff at Wally World. So, I mean, as nice as it is, I mean, again, as you can see, they get a much greater quantity here. And that's pretty much it. This is, in fact, going to be a very liquid. Oh, I'd better check that pie. Okay, I'm sorry, the pie crust. So, I mean, like I said, don't want to overdo it. Let me get out a trivet here, and we'll take a look, see what it looks like. Although I should also get my glove. Um, in fact, I think I can keep the pie crust in there a little bit longer. I could smell it, but it still does not smell done yet. So we will come back to that, which means all we have to do now is mix all this together. And especially since this is a cookbook from 1796, according to Tasting History, you obviously mixed it by hand. Although, you know what? I just realized I have something. Excuse me 1 second. Any excuse to use something like this is a good excuse. All right, come on. Try to. There we go. Bet you don't see this every day. You know what? I do believe it's working. In fact, if you want, no, I don't want this whole thing to get dunked in there. Um, Let me raise this so that you can get a better view of this thing. Because yet again, this was a flea market find. I did my best to clean it up and oil it using food grade mineral oil, that is. And as a result, I've got a nice vintage. Oh, yeah, that helps. There we go. Now we got it. Nice vintage mixer. And I do believe it's all mixed, which means all I can do now is put this aside so I can clean it. And I'll have to wait just a couple more minutes for that pie. Okay, and while we're here, hello, Corey Clark. I'm at Paula Defense Restaurant in Branson, Missouri. Well, that's nice. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Bailey's is always good in coffee. Okay, hot chocolate with Bailey's topped with ice cream drizzle. Nice. Oh, that all sounds good. I've never heard of a dirty cow. I've had purple cow. I can say that at least. Okay, and what else do we have? Yeah, that egg beater. Leave recipe in the comments. Oh, okay, please do. Chocolate chip sounds nice. Okay, yeah, I'm making pumpkin pie filling, and everybody's talking about booze. Well, that's perfectly all right. Let me look at this pie crust again, and I think I'd have to say, yeah, I do believe this pie crust is definitely shrinking a little bit, and it's starting to turn a lighter brown. Well, it's still very very light, but on the other hand, it's going to be in the oven for an hour. So let's move this to the side. Break out that trivet once again. Put these things in the sink. Yeah, you too. And get out my glove because this is a hot pan now. Yeah, this thing's shrunk a little bit. So I would say there's the cue to bring out the pie crust. Yeah. All right. Yes, indeed. This is not exactly the world's prettiest pie crust, is it? Of course, you could argue that in 1796, most pie crusts looked like this. However, now that we have it, oh, yeah, in fact, it's already pulling away a little bit too. So that all looks good. In that case, let's see if we can do this. In fact, I'm betting that there's probably even there's so much filling here that I bet I probably could have even used a bigger pan. Oops, a little bit splashed already. My bad. Oh dear, gonna be very awkward. Shit, rather awkward pie. I can only hope that it does expand in the oven. However, there we go. This is a vintage pumpkin pie in a modern cast iron pie plate. All right. That means getting this thing into the oven is going to be an adventure in itself. So let's dig out the second. And I think in fact, there we go. Let's move this up just so that you can watch my wonderful attempt at carrying this thing to the oven without spilling. As some folks like to say about my channel, here's where the chaos comes in. So do this nice and slow. Anybody remember that Flintstones cartoon? Nice and slow, see? That's the way to do it. Nice and slow. All right, there's step one. Now, let's take another look again. The oven, and here comes step two. Oh, joy. Meanwhile, I am still getting bashed like no tomorrow in the comments on the gumbo video I did. All right. Nonetheless, here we go. In we go again. Nice and slow. Take our time. And the reason I did the pumpkin pie first is because this is supposed to take an hour. Come on, there we go. Ha. Did it. Haha. All right. Hot pie from Flea Bottom makes the best pie crust you've ever seen. Okay, anybody consider buying dual handle skillets instead of skillets with a conventional handle? That is my only dual handled skillet. And I have actually used that pie plate as a skillet as well. It's very convenient, quite frankly. Um, I guess the real question is, how likely do you think you would be to burn your hand on the dual handle? A lot of people like the dual handle because they say it takes up less room than the long handle of a regular skillet, and they may have a point. Okay, now that we've done that, it's time not exactly to take a break, but I've got to do prepare my second set of preparation, and that is, let's move this camera up again and bring out the large cast iron wok. Because, yes, here we go again. I am using a cast iron wok to make apple pie. That also means you get to get a nice close up here of the cast iron wok as I turn on the heat and heat it up for a few minutes. So that also means I get to have a little conversation while we are waiting here. Okay, besides that way, I get to catch up on some of your comments here as I was kind of busy earlier. Debbie, I had to make self-rising flour because I don't ever use it. Now, that was easy. Cream of tartar and bicarbonate soda. Yes, self-rising flour, it is that easy. I never keep self-rising flour in my kitchen for precisely that reason. Well, one, I don't use it very often, so there's no point in storing it. And two, it is that easy to make self-rising flour. Okay, so now that we've done that, actually it occurs to me, well, no, I could probably even start the crust for the apple pie while we're waiting for this thing free, to heat up. But even so, happy Thanksgiving from G. Humphrey. Canned is good. I use it. The hackest is you use sweetened condensed milk. Debbie, I've got a sweet potato pie in the oven now. Done made the cornbread, chopped veggies, two different chocolate pies, and I'm going to make deviled eggs tonight. Boy, you are really on a roll here. You make me molasses and make me jealous. George Lewis, the Great Molasses Flood in 1919 killed 21 people. Yes, indeed. As a former Bostonian myself, I am actually very familiar with the history of the Great Molasses Flood. You really couldn't call it great because of the fact that just that 21 people died in that. They say you can still smell molasses to this day, but I seriously doubt that, considering it's been more than 100 years now. However, there is actually a plaque in that on the street in that area there, memorializing the victims of the molasses flood. It's kind of hard to find, but it can be found. If you're ever in the Boston area, you may want to look it up. Grandma's is a great brand. Yeah, I always use Grandma's for that reason, and especially when making my beans too. Drinking Dirty Cow. Oh yeah, that's when everybody started talking about alcohol. YouTube Premium, and you won't get ads. It's well worth the $11 a month. Oh, the people who got an ad, and I apologize for that. As I said, YouTube has forced me to include ads in my live videos. I understand some folks don't have that. I'm not sure. Maybe it's probably because my channel has over 50,000 subscribers, as incredible as it sounds. That's probably why they're forcing ads on my lives here. Put the rest of the filling in a pan to steam cook. Yeah, I could probably do that actually. Now that you're saying that, that's a good idea, Val. I try, but they always look like, yeah, oh yeah, pie crust. They always look like mine. Yes, exactly. I don't blame you at all. I mean, no, I am not insulted if people make comments about that pie crust because I will certainly agree with that. As I've said about many things, I'm just an amateur. I'm not a professional. I've made a fair number of pies, though. And yeah, that crust is, well, as long as it works. However, I like your idea of maybe we should just simply bake the rest of that filling as is. So, and besides, all I have to do is pour it into a skillet. So that also gives me an excuse to break out another skillet. I like that. Thank you for the suggestion. So let's go run quickly to from the size of that. I could probably use at least a number 5 size pan. So let's quickly head to my wonderful collection and quickly dig out something that might be useful. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Let us pull out. Get uh, some, well, yeah. Okay, let's pull out something that I just finished seasoning here. In fact, and it's a new addition to my collection. I just added this the other day. I have not yet shown this one off on the internet. So there is a nice excuse for you, folks. And some folks may recognize this because it was on eBay recently. So say hello, everybody, to Birmingham Stove and Range Square Skillet. Now, this, of course, again, was made during their Century series. They never made these in their Red Mountain days. Two things about the square skillet that I really like. One is it has this different handle. BSR made a few pans in a series with this unique kind of handle here. The square skillet is probably the most common of these. The other might be their chef skillet. The other thing about this, of course, is that it does have a made in USA mark, so that means it's made after 1967. Although interestingly, other than that, this particular one is completely blank. It does not have your typical beer mark on it. They did make some pans like that, but nonetheless, say hello to the BSNR square skillet. And per your suggestion, let's do this nice and fast and see how it turns out. Let us simply pour the rest of this into there. Looks like I may have to dig out the spatula and scrape a little bit off the bottom because we definitely want this, molasses. And I think I will stick this on the top rack to let this thing cook. So back to the oven one last time where the wok is still heating up. Very carefully. Slow down, slow down. Don't want this thing to spill. And come on, just a little bit more. There we go. And I definitely don't want this thing to spill onto the other pie. But we got it. Thank you very much for the suggestion. I hadn't even thought of that. Okay. Anybody consider buying dual handle skillets? Well, yeah, we did mention that, and I would say if you want it, go ahead and get it. Bad news: turkey is too big for my 17-quart Magnum-like roaster. Have to get the next size up. Wow, handsome stone. Do you have something then? Maybe you might want to go the skillet route. The one that I've been doing here, namely taking a number 14 size cast iron skillet and roast it in that instead of the Magnolite. But I'm very sorry to hear that, Rocket Caver. No, not Rocket Caver. Handsome Stone. Old square skillet, awesome find. I thought the 17 quart was the biggest Magnolite. Thanks for bringing out the square skillet. I'm going to bake my rolls in mine. Oh, that's a great idea too. Yeah, I was hoping to get some use out of this. And in fact, there's no reason why I can't. So once the pie is all set and cooled off, I might just simply put it into a container, like some kind of a pudding or something. And then I'll wash off the square skillet and I'll be able to use it tomorrow. So my latest cast iron is a Griswold number 109 skillet griddle given to me by a friend. Nice find, George. Congratulations on that. But anyway, Handsome Stone. Um, okay, if you don't have a bigger pot, then like I said, might I suggest if you have a number 14 size cast iron skillet and something tells me I'm suspecting you're the type of person who you might want to try roasting it in that. Okay, but having said that, actually, I can probably turn down the heat on this wok now because it's time now to get into step two and start preparing an apple pie. The nice thing about I'm gonna have to brag a little bit about my apple pie recipe. The one I've been doing recently, because the nice thing is to be able to do it at a lower temperature rather than over 400 degrees. However, I also have to clean up this mess here. I've already made filled this whole space up here. I've got this trivet. I have ugh, yeah, you too. I have these measuring spoons, and unfortunately, it looks like I have some stuff that I need to very quickly wipe off. So I'm glad I have an island in my kitchen, but even so, I don't have unlimited space. However, that was not so hard. Let me just quickly get a paper towel and dry this off, and then will come part two. All right. Anyway, it looks like that pie is probably going to be in the oven at least until 9:30. And this was kind of my intention here. That's another reason why I wanted to make the apple pie, the pumpkin pie first, so that I can bake that. And I know for a fact the apple pie is not going to be done when this live is over. I will, though, of course, show a reveal when it is when it is done. However, there we go. Well, these pieces of wax paper didn't last long. Gonna have to dig out another couple. So yeah, on top of all this, I even have this extra thing of pumpkin dough. Great. Well, I'll figure that all out. Okay, back to business. It's time for part two here. Humphrey, rotisserie turkey is yummy. Oh, rotisserie turkey, that sounds good. You know your fan base. I have a 14 lodge sitting in the lie. Oh, sorry about that. But you have an electric roaster as a backup. Okay. Well, the short answer is whatever works. I mean, yeah, as much as I like cooking in cast iron, of course, if there's no choice, then obviously that's what we need to do. Besides, that electric roaster sounds nice anyway. Because after all, the important thing is that it tastes good. So, now that we've done that, I get to pull out, here it is, apple pie crust, which is somewhat different because it uses my apple pie recipe, including my crust recipe, which also has a lot of booze in it, but also other flavors. There's even cardamom and stuff in this particular crust because again I want this to be a pie crust that people will actually want to eat. I already griped about that earlier this evening. You know how people just often just put the pie crust aside and only eat the filling. I want people to know that they can eat my pie crust. Come on, you know what. There we go. Off to a start. Also, this pie crust is a little softer than the standard butter crust. So I think it may actually be easier to prepare. Of course, I've made a bunch of apple pies now. I've been using and tweaking this recipe for, oh man, time is flying. I would have to say this recipe is anywhere from maybe 8 to 10 years old. So yeah, I've made a bunch of homemade apple pies though because, well, I love it. I mean, yeah. When I was inspired to try making my own apple pie from scratch, yes, this was another case where I would never turn back. Well, not never. I will say I have eaten store-bought apple pies still, because for a while I lived in the same city as the Table Talk Pie Company, and they're a good company, kind of like Lodge Cast Iron. Table Talk was bought out by a corporation, something in like the, what is it, 1960s or so. However, only within the last decade or so, they spun off and became an independent company again. And apparently, ever since they've done so, their business has gone through the roof. So, yeah, Table Talk Pies is not a corporate company. I mean, Hostess Pies or Hostess, all that, as you know, unfortunately, they went bankrupt and their name was bought out by some corporation or another. And I'm only saying that just because, corporations are, yeah, they're bad. But I am not the type of person who starts screaming, boycott corporations. No, that's not my thing. On the other hand, congratulations to Table Talk Pies for being an independent company and for being successful too. But I mean, it's because of that yes, I have eaten, in fact, a fair number of store-bought pies. Table Talk pies are good, as you know. Table Talk pies are not world class. Oh my God, this will change your life pies, but they're good, and they're so. I mean, I don't really have a problem with them. But once I started baking my own pies, then yeah, as I said, there was no turning back. And that was one reason why I took the time to cobble together my own recipe for apple pie. And this is the result. This is an apple pie recipe that I am again quite proud of. I have seen some instances where other folks have been kind enough to try my recipe, and apparently they've liked it. So thank you very much for that. Only this year, in fact, was when I tweaked this recipe more to prepare the pie filling in advance. And that's why I have the cast iron wok on the stove, because we are going to cook the pie filling before we put it into the pie. Doing that will solve two of the problems that homemade apple pies can have. One is, naturally, a lot of liquid in the pie filling. Yeah, I mean, pie fillings are nice, should be nice and gooey and not especially runny. The other is gaps. When your pie crust becomes something of a dome, and there's this big, huge empty space under the crust before you get to the actual filling. Well, I found out recently that pre-cooking your pie filling takes care of both of those problems. And that's why I'm doing it this way. All right. Once these pies are done, I'm going to put them in a container and keep them outside because, yay, for here in New York, the temperature is cool enough that as long as I keep the pies in a closed container, I'll be able to store them on my porch. Yeah, because how much room do you have in your kitchen for Thanksgiving? So at least in that instance, yay for cooler New York weather. All right. And having said that, I think we're almost at that point. All right, there we go. If I may say so, I like the shape of this pie crust. I think this pie crust is going to look better than the last one, at least. It didn't come apart either. Ugh. All right, almost done. There we go. I think we are good. Came out from the wax paper. Opposite problem. Okay, now time to get out the next cast iron pan, which, as I said, is a three-notch lodge. I thought this was a 1940s three-notch lodge, but I was wrong because uh, lodge collectors have informed me that this blob here on the top is an indication that it was actually made anywhere from the 1960s to 1980s. So even though it looks vintage, it is vintage. I mean, the 1960s are not as new as they used to be, but it's not as old as I thought it was. Not that there's any problem with that. It is still a Lodge cast iron pan, and it's from the days when Lodge actually did smooth out their cast iron pans too. It actually has a surface with those nice swirl marks on it. Also, it's a number 6 size, which is unusual for Lodge. I mean, I know some makers, like I believe it was Griswold, for instance, they did use quite a few number 6 and number 9 size. Lodge, not so much. There we go. Now that we've done that, let's see how well we can get this. Don't be too fast. Yeah. Get this into the pan. Let's move this over a little bit for you. There we go. Come on. I get this wax paper off again. Don't want to tear the crust, and I don't want to tear the wax paper. So that means, once again, patience. Patience you must have. Haste leads to the dark side. Oh, good grief. Come on, you know what. Let's do this. Little by little. Yeah. Starting to tear. Come on. Now if it tears, I can repair it. Just be patient. Ugh. Maybe the most difficulty I've had getting wax paper out of a pie crust. Little by little. Almost there. Ugh. Come on. Don't want to ruin this. So I can smell it nice. There. Ha. Rather awkward. Maybe I should press it down a little bit. There we go. Much better. And this one, we don't have to pre-bake the crust. We are instead going to pre-bake the filling. Can't do that with a pumpkin pie. There we go. Much better. Even though it still has the so-called rustic look, which means I can't crimp the edges, at least it seems like a more solid crust. Okay, phew. All right. Debbie, you can make an easy 1 hour yeast rolls that are much better. Ooh, that sounds good. Would chilling the dough right before you remove the paper help? You know, it probably would now that you say that. In fact, now that you say that, while we're waiting, let me take the other ball of pie dough for the apple pie, and let me stick this in the fridge for a few minutes. So thank you again for your advice. I'm getting a lot of advice from you folks in these live shows. So thank you so much for that. All right, now that we've done that, ooh. Meanwhile, okay, one last thing before we get down to doing the apple pie filling. Check out the pie. Check out the pumpkin pie. Yeah, that means I'm sorry. Here comes more roller coaster rides. Well, I guess at this point you should be used to it here on this channel, or at least I hope so. But hey, take a look already. I'd say this is actually looking not too bad. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can finally come to the next thing, which once again is the large cast iron wok. Balanced Black Cat's rules 30 minutes ago or so, just thinking about Thanksgiving. Hope you have a fun plan for family and friends. Homemade rolls. I've made them. Cheap rolls right out of the oven with slathered butter. Okay, enough. Parchment paper may work better for you. Yeah, you know, you might be right. I may have to try using parchment paper next time. My mother-in-law will take the excess crust, make rectangles with cinnamon and sugar filling, twist and bake. Ooh, all that sounds good. Have you tried parchment paper instead of wax for rolling out the crust? You know I have not, but seeing as how we've got one more crust to go, the top crust of the apple pie, I may want to do that. However, right now, it's time for part 2, which means I've got to dig out some apples, which I'm pleased to say I prepared before going live. Prepared some apples. Looks like they browned a little bit, but that's no big deal at all. All right. So that means I've got to get out my recipe here because we're about to stir fry us some apples. Let me quickly switch over here to the apple pie recipe. There we are. Okay. Okay, that means now that we've done that, I know this thing is definitely going to be hot enough because these are just apples, not a steak. That means, well, fortunately, I have this olive oil out. So let's start with this. And I don't need very much of it either. And with that, we are about to stir fry us some apples. And away we go. So yeah, if you've ever had fried apple pies, this is similar to what it turns out with. Well, no, that's not true. Fried apple pies is where you fry the entire thing, including the crust. But by doing this is going to soften the apples, so that way there won't be any big gap under the crust. And once we add the liquid, this will also give us a nice thick pie filling and one with less running liquid. And I prefer, oh yeah, what kind of apples? I'm using Granny Smith apples. And yeah, I know there's a whole bunch of types of apples that I have used, Brayburn, Honeycrisp, and all the rest of that. But I wanted to go the tried and true route on this and use Granny Smiths for this pie. In fact, I do believe it looks like it's starting to shrink already. That sure didn't take long, did it? In which case, then I can start adding some extra ingredients here. So we start with, in fact, even going to eyeball it because, it's not the end of the world. We do about 3 teaspoons of lemon juice. Probably should have added the lemon juice in the beginning now that I think of it, because it would have kept kept the apples from browning. Oh well. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, after all, they've only recently browned. They're not spoiled, they're not rotten or anything like that. And anyway, they're going to be part of the pie filling. So this will still turn out fine. All right, now we get to three tablespoons of apple cider vinegar or apple flavored liquor. Ahem. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. I did indeed learn a lesson from Julia Child here. And Julia Child's motto was, I love cooking with wine. Sometimes I even use it in the food. And to that, now we get to throw in about a quarter cup of white sugar. Where's my white sugar? There it is. I should probably measure this out just to be safe. So let's dig out a quarter cup of white sugar here. Oh dear, a lump. Oops. Well, I can take care of that. That's another nice thing about stir frying this. Okay, in fact, I should probably do that right now. Start spreading this around. Share the love and all that. There we go. You smell that liquor already, but no, whoops. I think something got away. Come on. Okay. But yeah, there's definitely liquid now at the bottom of this wok here. And the trick is to turn it into something thicker than liquid. And based on my previous experience, that is not hard at all to do. Also, it means that sugar lump will dissolve in this liquid. Besides, I'm not done with the ingredients yet. I've only gone as far as adding sugar. To this, bring this back up. Come on. And let me see. From there, we do about half a teaspoon of kosher salt. So dig out the kosher salt. Here we are. That means I get to look like a fancier cook than I am by doing it this way. Oof. And after the kosher salt, we next do about another quarter cup of brown sugar. Right, yeah, here we are. Brown sugar coming up. And after that, I think I'll mix it around again. Flop. And that's why. Brown sugar is like that. On the other hand, I would rather have brown sugar that is nice and chunky like this, as opposed to petrified rock solid brown sugar. That's always fun. Anyway, I'm hoping that this should be ready. I'm hoping rather that the pumpkin pie should be ready at about the same time that this is ready to go into the oven. That's kind of my plan here. There we go. Yeah, the brown sugar actually dissolved nicely. So from here, oh, there's also steam coming from these, so it's definitely heating up. I figure this thing will probably even start boiling soon enough. Okay, next. Brown sugar. Where was I? Brown sugar, brown sugar. Okay, a little bit of butter softens, and that's one thing I forgot to dig out of the fridge. So let me quickly find out where my butter is. My fridge is packed for Thanksgiving. Here we are. Ugh. Sorry, I think I bumped the camera. My apologies. And let's here we are. Throw in about a tablespoon of butter, which will melt easily enough. So even though this butter is not softened, it is going to soften without any problem at all. I put this back, and then finally, well, not finally. From here, now we get to throw in about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and that will help thicken this filling here, which, as I said, I'm just going to eyeball it, especially since I did a poor job opening this thing. There we go. That's probably enough. Now let's mix it all together. Time to get my pot holder, because I don't want this, I also don't want this pot holder to catch on fire. That would not be good. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of sugar and sweeteners in this liquid here. So far, I haven't even added any real spices yet, but that's going to come next, namely nutmeg and cinnamon. And yeah, actually, these things are not looking so brown now that they've steeped in this liquid here. All right, it's really just a matter at this point of cooking it until the liquid thickens, because we are then going to bake it in the oven. Besides, these are apples anyway. So, again, it's not like meat. There's no such thing as an undercooked apple. At least as long as it was picked when the apple was ripe. Finally, where was I? Oh, yes, that's right. Now from here, get to throw in a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Oh, good. That means, let me dig out the nutmeg. Here it is. That means I get to grind up some more nutmeg. Do I have a fresh one? Oh, good. There is one. Okay, good. I promise you, I am trying to do this as quickly as I can, folks. What I'm trying to do is find a nutmeg. Oh, there it is. I've already started using. Yeah, heck with it. I'm not going to waste too much time here, because this means I get to grind some more nutmeg. I've mentioned this recently, and I am still 100% in favor of this. If there is any spice at all you should grind yourself, it is nutmeg. It's easy, as you can see. It doesn't have any liquid. You're not going to get liquid and seeds all over the place. It does not require a lot of pressure. It's easy to do. And the flavor difference is phenomenal. So yeah, once I started grinding my own nutmeg, once again, like I said, there was no turning back. Because as you can see, this really did not take long at all. Maybe just a little bit more. So yeah, take the time, go to a foreign market, Get yourself some whole nutmeg and a simple microplane and grind your own nutmeg. Look at this, it's starting to get thick already. That means we're getting close to that point. The cornstarch probably helped, but yeah, look at this. We are actually getting to some real apple pie filling here. And finally, into all this, we throw 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Where's the cinnamon? Here it is. This one I'm just going to eyeball as well. There we go. That should be enough. And even though the recipe actually doesn't call for it, I think I'll throw in just a little bit more of this ginger. Not much. Don't want it to overwhelm it. Probably enough. Yeah, so there we go. I've got your favorite spices, Val's Black Cats. Nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger. And in the pie crust, we have cardamom as well. Oh yeah, I can definitely smell this. There's also a lot of sugar in here, so it's going to be a sweet pie, no question about that. But at this point, I'd say we are just about ready here. All I have to do is mix it all together. Then we will put this into the pie. Then we will cover it with the other pie crust. And it will be ready to go into the oven. Whereas meanwhile, yeah, this other pie is baking actually nicely. Not bad at all, I'd say. Yeah, I just took another look at the pumpkin pie. Things are looking good there. And the pumpkin pie went into the oven at about, it's 9:17 now, so there's still, I mean, we're supposed to bake the pumpkin pie for 60 minutes. So if I figured right, I've got this bad habit, it seems like, of not exactly recording the time, but I believe I put it into the oven at a little past 8:30, which means we only have about 10 to 15 minutes left for the pumpkin pie. And it does look like it is actually turning into a not a bad pumpkin pie at all, despite the awkward crust. Yeah. Meanwhile, this is probably done. Let me turn off the heat. Got to clean up some more of my mess here. That's been a bad habit of mine. Right, so I'm not even going to use this bowl. I'm just going to get it right from the wok into there. Okay. Move some of these things to the side as fast. Don't want to drop that. As fast as I can. This, oh crap. Son of a. I forgot the eggs in the pie. The eggs are sitting right here. Crap! I goofed. And that's a major goof. Nuts! And this was entirely my fault. I missed the eggs. The eggs are sitting right here. Oh, damn it. Nuts. Yes, indeed. Chaos. Crap. Well, I'm sure it'll taste okay, but yeah, this thing, the pie is not going to be. I have to say, it doesn't look bad though. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. However, while I'm live here on YouTube, I'm trying to be nice. However, I've got to keep going. I've got to at least get this apple pie going. Nuts! Can't believe I forgot that. The eggs are sitting right here too. How did I miss that? Let me look at that recipe here. Oh man. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Don't want to waste everybody's time anymore. Nuts. Okay, enough. Let's gotta keep going. All right, let's keep going as best as we can. At least there will be one pie that'll work out. All right. Get out mixer and add the eggs. Mix it up. Well, I suppose I may have to do that. All right. Um, First things first. Let's keep going here. At least I know the apple pie is going to turn out okay. Can say that much at least. All right, which means we've got this and get my gloves and pot holder. Yeah, see, here are the eggs. I had them all set out and everything. Damn it. All right. Well, again, what can I do? It's my own fault, yes, but I'll manage as best as I can. Okay, nonetheless, here is our apple filling. And here is the same spatula I used. And now it's only a matter. Oh, I can smell that apple filling already. Ooh, I'll bet I could just simply chow down on this filling here. And into the pie it goes. Yeah, the eggs are a binder, so again, while I know that pumpkin pie will still taste okay, it is simply not going to have the right consistency. Anyway, at least, as I said, at least we're going to have a nice apple pie. Because as you can see, the apples are already softened. That means I can fill every nook and cranny here. And again, there will not be any gaps. Hmm. Well, all right. You know what this means? I have another can of pumpkin. I'm going to have to make another pumpkin pie. And hey, I've got an extra pumpkin pie crust. Remember what I said? I said that I said I'd made two pumpkin pie crusts more out of habit than anything else. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the second pie crust. Okay. Um, I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, well, I suppose I could even keep the live going. I'm not sure if I should because it's still, everybody here has a lot to do. Thanksgiving's tomorrow, and I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Maybe I'll do a separate live for it. That might work. Okay. All right, but nonetheless, okay. There we go. Yeah. Not exact. I mean, yep. I think I've got the situation resolved. It just means I'm going to have to be up later. Oh well, not the first time. But anyway, that means we can concentrate now on the apple pie. Oh, I'm out of molasses. I am out of molasses. All right, which means I'm going to have to settle for brown sugar. Yeah, because I mean, really, molasses is a thickener. No, when it's not really a thickener, it actually thinned out. So yeah, I once forgot to put eggs in my cheesecake. It turned out okay. So I am gonna have to use brown sugar instead of molasses. Okay, all right. Back to the apple pie. At least the apple pie is turning out exactly as planned. Um, okay, let's move this wok out of the way. Put it on a cold burner on the stove. Ugh. All right. That also means all we have to do now at this point. Oh yeah. All we have to do at this point is roll out a second crust, and yeah, let me dig out the parchment paper. I hope this doesn't. No, it's not going to ruin it. I mean, after all, there's a reason why you folks are suggesting it. Although that might be one problem. All right. Well, we'll see how we can make that. We can manage that. All right. Okay. Oh yeah. That other crust, meanwhile, is still in the fridge, which means it's not rock hard. Nice. I think this crust will actually roll out easier. Maybe I should just go for the wax paper. Heck with it. I know, it seems like a lot of the fun of this channel is watching me screw up. So, let's see how well I can screw up this pie with parchment paper. This pie crust with parchment paper. And actually, that looks like it's holding out okay. Of course, I won't be able to see it either. I'm going to have to pretty much judge. Well, that's okay. I mean, you don't have to see this. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you ask me. All right, we got the rolling pin. And see what happens. Well, for starters, this stuff seems to slide around the countertop more. So that's going to be fun. Ugh. I don't know. Maybe I should put some grease. No, grease won't help, but something on the countertop to hold it down. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, this is an adventure, all right. Yeah, I realize, folks, I suppose for some of you at least, this is why you come to these live videos. Not just for the cast iron, but as you say, for the chaos. And yeah, it just occurred to me as well, since I baked that in that cast iron pie plate, gee, I'm just going to have to dig out another cast iron pan to use, to bake the second pumpkin pie. Gee, what a shame. Oh, it's as if, I wonder if I have another cast iron pan to make that pumpkin pie. Yeah. Fortunately, that's probably the least of my problems tonight. And you know what else? Gee, if, as you say, I guess we will have two pumpkin pies. If one doesn't work, we'll have the other. All right, but now we're getting somewhere, actually. Flip this over. I notice it's not as crinkled. I think you may be onto something, folks, with your suggestion of using parchment paper, because it's becoming noticeably easier now, even though it's still sliding all over the place. Oh, but on top of all this, by the way, I reserved all the apple juice, from draining the apples before cooking them. And I'm going to mix an egg into that reserved apple juice to make an apple egg wash to go on the top. And maybe I'll drink the rest of it. All right. Okay, while we're doing this, because we like you. Mickey. Why? Because we like you. I am just at the age where the original Mickey Mouse Club ran on TV as reruns in the early 1970s. I was not around when they originally aired the Mickey Mouse Club. So the Mickey Mouse Club did not exactly shape my life or my childhood the way it did for kids in the 50s. I do remember on Sundays watching The Wonderful World of Disney, just as it had transitioned from Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color to The Wonderful World of Disney. Because, yeah, by the time the 70s rolled around, everything on TV was colored. Okay. Gotta be patient here. Take the pumpkin, add BS, and spice it up with cinnamon, ginger, pinch of salt, and nutmeg. Add the eggs and put in some half and half and put into a par-baked shell. Pretty much, yeah. Oh, I see. That's your recipe. Okay, well, considering this, I think I'm probably going to roll out that other pumpkin pie crust in this parchment paper because, yeah, if nothing else, I can definitely say that this is working. Interesting enough, it's even keeping the shape too. I mean, even though, yeah, I was worried about not being able to see it, that's certainly not a problem. I wonder if this means I will really have no excuse to buy wax paper, because I think that's about the only thing I've ever really used wax paper for. Rolling out pie crusts, because I'm not a heavy duty baker. I realize there are other uses for wax paper, but so far in the 10 years, 13 years, 13 years I've been cooking, I can't think of anything else I've used wax paper for. So I'm just going to have to keep getting parchment paper from now on. Thank you once again for your advice, folks. All right, getting down to it anyway. And besides, we are getting down to time too. Actually, I think we're at the point where I should probably take that other pie out of the oven, like it or not. So, give me a second to clean up more of my mess. You see all of the stuff back here as I get ready to reveal the sadly eggless pumpkin pie. This over here. This and that. Move this aside for the moment. And dig out my gloves. Ugh, I make such a mess. Where the heck did I put my gloves? Oh, here they are. All right, here we go. Like it or not, although I have to remember I have that other pan on top too. That one is looking interesting. Interesting is one word for it. However, oh yeah, this thing is definitely liquid, although it is supposed to be liquid even with the eggs. Ugh. So anyway, sans the eggs, here's the pumpkin pie. I have to say it actually doesn't look that bad. But I know it's Thanksgiving, and anyway, that's my fault. So besides, making another pie will give me another excuse to try making a better crust. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to put this aside and finish the apple pie and get the apple pie in the oven at least. Actually, well, no, I have one other thing yet. Because now that that's done, and especially since the other one doesn't have eggs in it either, let's dig out. Where are my trivets? I have enough trivets around here. Where the heck did I put them? Oh, okay. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of this live as well, folks. Let me just finish up the apple pie and we'll get it into the oven. So, but the other one, which is also has an interesting consistency. Ugh. So it's like it's formed a skin on top, but it's definitely still liquid underneath. It almost looks like it's formed its own crust, more or less. However, well, all I can do is let these things stand and cool off. I mean, there's really not much else we can do with that. So, have to move these out of the way. And, okay, there's one. And then comes the other. All right. Yeah, no, as I said, doesn't look too bad. Oh, and by the way, that's a granite countertop, so that's why I was able to put that hot pan on it. But definitely, I do want to prepare another pie, or rather, I feel I have to prepare another pie. Gee, what was I saying earlier tonight? You really don't want to do this if you feel you have to. Well, it's not that. I mean, it's because, again, this was my own fault that I messed up the pie. I mean, there's really no way around that. Come on, why am I? There we go. That's a little better. Oh, this is interesting. Well, yeah, it's an uncooked crust. Of course, it's come off like that. All right. Well, we are almost done here. I mean, all I have to do is put this put on an egg wash, and then it goes into the oven. And then we will be all set. Nonetheless, Thanksgiving's tomorrow. Yay. And I do hope you folks are having, well, a better time than I am. We're probably big enough at this point. All right. Although it looks like it is once again. Well, that was a little easier to come off at least. Yeah, definitely. The pieces are just coming off of this thing. All right. Well, let's see what happens. Flop. And there we go. It's still kind of, unfortunately, is still kind of doing the same thing, still kind of sticking to it. So just have to be careful. Ugh. Quite frankly, this is about the worst time I've had. There we go, with a pie crust. Okay. But we have it. Now all we really have to do is crimp all this together. Yeah, this is how my pies always turned out. As I said, I never crimp the crust. I just end up rolling it over. But this is why I want to prepare a crust that people will actually want to eat. So at least I can feel good about that. There we go. All right, now we've got there. It probably will. It'll probably still taste okay. But as I said, I feel like I have no choice but to make another pie. So that is what I will have to do once this one is done. However, we're not quite done yet. For starters, Even though it's raw dough and it does have a raw taste, I like the taste of this dough. All right. What was I saying? Oh, yes, that's right. Here is the reserved apple juice from when I drained the apples. Dig one more egg out of the fridge. I mean, after all, those eggs there on the counter have already come to room temperature. And with this, it's not as crucial for the egg to be room temperature. So let's put the rest of these eggs back in the fridge. Oven light, and actually I can raise. How much? Oh yeah, one other thing. One thing I don't remember about my recipe is it's supposed to be 350 or 375. Let me very quickly bring up the apple pie recipe. If it ever finishes bringing it up, come on. Thank you. Cast iron skillet. Take. Oh, it's 375. Okay, let me raise the oven to 375 because we still want to brown the crust. There we go. Okay, at last. Now, as I was saying, we are making a quick and easy egg wash. Oh, come on. Always something. Come on, let's do this without getting shell into this, shall we? All right, manage that at least, barely. The other thing is, I forgot to dig out my basting brush. And this is, I did manage to get a little piece of shell into it. What a shocker. Come on, you know what. There it is. All right, now at last. Just in like this. Come on. You know, apple juice is supposed to be acidic, so I would think that this egg should mix in with it. Maybe it's because it's a cold egg. Actually, no, it looks like it is mixing in. So now we are just about ready. Ready to paint our pie. And this will not take long at all. Yes, I know. That's the oven telling me that it has just reached 375. That didn't take long at all. All right, finally. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to end this live after the apple pie goes into the oven, so we only have like a couple more minutes. Thank you very much for your patience, folks. Um, as I said, I'm probably going to go live again tonight, as it turns out, preparing that second pumpkin pie. All right, there we go. This apple pie has craters in it. Always something, isn't it? Okay, nonetheless, finally, the other thing is we need to, of course, put some holes or gaps or whatever it is in the crust to let the steam escape. 3, 4. Come on, you know what? Ugh, really hope this works out. Okay. All right. There we go. At last. Oh, this is fun. However, we are at last ready to put this apple pie, at least, into ah, the oven. And it's only going to be in the oven for like about maybe 40, 45 minutes, because all we have to do is cook the crust. The filling is already cooked. And so in we go. And at least this one is turning out as expected. Oh, not gonna miss the CIC chaos in the kitchen. I have the same thing sometimes. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I realize that I am hardly the only one to mess up my recipes like this. So that's why I'm not. Even though, yes, I'm frustrated because I kind of wanted to clean up my mess and go to bed, but instead I'm going to be up for probably like another couple of hours or so baking another pie. But has to be done, and thank goodness at least tomorrow is the holiday, so I don't have to get up for work. And so, yeah, remember, we tune in for the chaos, never knowing what will happen. Boy, are you telling me. Yeah, sometimes I think I might be happy with a little less chaos, but well, that's how it goes. All right, no worries. Yeah, one pan man. It's your job to be hard on me. Yes, indeed. I've said that enough times. I encourage it. I encourage the snarky comments largely because I deserve them. So, and other than that, somewhere I have a pie bird. Yeah, yeah, that's something I've also considered. Get yourself a pie bird. Yeah, I've considered it, and maybe I should actually look around and see what I can find for one. Other than that, though, I'm actually not worried at all about that apple pie. I'm confident that that is going to turn out just fine. So at least we got one. Otherwise, last night I washed my big flour sifter. Oh, and made and baked an apple bundt pound cake. Oh, that sounds great. Boy, you folks are gonna like. You are gonna have quite a Thanksgiving, actually, aren't you? But then again, I think I could say that about everybody here, folks, because as I said, really, that's supposed to be the whole idea of Thanksgiving, getting together with family and friends, saying thanks, and all the rest of that. And of course, eating lots of food is a bonus. So yeah, I know it all comes from the history with the Pilgrims. They were all thankful for surviving their first winter or two in New England. Part of the problem of that, of course, was that the Pilgrims, quite frankly, the Pilgrims really had no idea what they were doing. They were hardly experienced farmers, and but they managed. And the rest, as they say, was history. And I'm not going to go into the politics at all because, well, we've been here long enough tonight. However, I can take the time once again to thank everybody for being kind enough to stop by here to watch the chaos tonight. We will be doing it again next week. I've no doubt about that. And Debbie, coconut pie is done now. One more dessert, and I'm done for the night. Yeah, I know exactly. All I have to do is the turkey as well. I'm going to be cooking my turkey very early because my guests are going to come tomorrow, and they say they are actually going to bring a couple of ducks. And in addition to the turkey, we're going to have roast duck tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to that as well, especially since I'm not going to have to cook the ducks. So all I really have to do as well is get set on the sides tomorrow. The turkey, and then of course we've got the mashed potatoes, the squash, the three bean casserole, the sweet potato casserole, mac and cheese. All the usual stuff. And I am actually looking forward to it because despite what happened tonight, well, I'm still feeling good. Um, because what can I say? I'm having fun here. And you folks here are really a big reason why these live videos are so much fun for me. I say this every week because, well, I mean it. That having you folks here making all your little snarky comments and conversations and everything like that really helps to make these videos, as I said, really a lot of fun for me. And I can only thank everybody who's kind enough to show up here for this. I hope I do my best to entertain you folks enough so that you do indeed. Why does it seem like I've got some kind of lump or something here? But don't worry, I don't. It does. I don't feel anything unusual. Must be the shadows. Anyway, but yes, these there are harvest time festivals in countries all over the world called by different names, basic underlying commonality. No need to muck it up with politics, and that's what I'm not going to do. What I am going to do, though, is thank everybody, as I said, for showing up here. For you folks who do show up, like Val's Black Cats Cafe Rule, and G. Humphrey and Terry Sinchef. And hello, Sherlock Holmes and Beth Button and Clico. Eager to hear how the pumpkin pie tastes and the duck. Yeah, I'm interested in it as well. Like I said, I was trying a new recipe tonight, even though I should have remembered the eggs. um, but yes, we will all have a nice, fun Thanksgiving tomorrow. Whether you're cooking your turkey and everything else in cast iron like I am or not, or even if you're just ordering out for Chinese tomorrow, the important thing, as always, is to just have fun because that's really the whole point. I mean, if it wasn't fun, why do it? So thank you, everybody, and especially all you folks again. Have yourself a good holiday tomorrow. Have it, nice and safe and filling and with as little drama as possible, because that is one of the other things that tends to happen on Thanksgiving. That and football. So have a good evening, folks. And I guess for some of you, at least, I may very well see you again within, oh, I don't know, probably the next hour or so. So everybody, just relax, have a good evening, and we will be back next Wednesday. So thank you so much, and again, happy Thanksgiving.